Welcome to Oregon Voters Digest, the program that brings forward the social and political issues that are important to people living here in the Pacific Northwest. And now, your host, Bruce Broussard.
Welcome again to this segment of the Oregon Voters Digest. I need not tell you folks what we're doing. Hey, we're reaching out to candidates here in the swamp, Portland, Oregon, and elsewhere in the state. But we're the largest city in the state of Oregon, as you know, and we're focusing this. And we're trying to make sure that you understand what the issues are through the candidates, because you, the people, are the one that will be selecting the solutions to our issues that we're having. And that's very important. We know that. And we're giving them more time. And we're making sure that they understand that this is where they really want to get their platforms introduced. Because in all due respect, folks, when you get down, if you're running for office, for those who haven't been here yet, and maybe just you're at the table for the first time around, media is going to be giving you a call and saying, okay, come on down, we're going to schedule you for an interview. And they've got their questions, one, and two, they've already made their selections based on their advertising. I hate to put it that way, but that's a fact. I've been in the business for quite some time, and John has also too. We've been around, so we want to make sure this is a benefit for everybody.
Yes.
For the business community, for the people, the whole nine yards. But remember, you who are running for office, you basically are working for we the community.
We the people.
Okay, and we want to make sure we give you enough time so that the community understands that you are basically a solutions to our problem, the community. Okay, it's very important. So that's what we're doing here. So I'll jump on. That's what we've been doing for you who are joining us initially. Hey, boom, sit down and do something similar to things that we're doing. Get a round table discussion with your neighbors and this, that, and the other. Tell them to watch the show, and you can always go back. There's a historical piece there. We got an inventory of all of the folks we've already interviewed, and if you haven't run, you can get a feel for what you should be doing when you come here. Okay, so that's what we're going to be doing, and I've got John here, and what we normally do, we normally open the show and kind of give you a little update on what's going on in the campaigns and who's running, who's not running, and this and that and whatever, and then we normally go through and interview the candidates that we've scheduled. That John will do that. He does that part of it, you know, and then after we do that, we do the close, and then we come back with some more candidates, and it gets sent out. It gets sent out to a lot of links, if you will. And you can go naturally. Oregon Voters Digest is on YouTube, and that's there. That the history is there to give you an idea of who we've already interviewed, etc. And John's done that, and I'm part of the process, if you will. And so I think it's and we're the only one in town doing this.
Yeah.
We're the only one in town doing it. Any other point, John?
Well, I just wanted to welcome our viewers back for another round of Meet the Candidates. I'm John Toran. Today, actually, Bruce Broussard's going to be conducting our interviews. Did I send you the pictures from yesterday?
No, you got him?
Oh, wow. Yeah, we had like 5 pictures from all the candidates yesterday.
Oh, did you?
Yeah. Yesterday's show was really, really good. We got a really good sampling. We had 3 different races represented.
Great.
We had 2 or 3 people that were running for city council.
Okay.
We had somebody that was running for county commissioner, and we had somebody running for county district attorney.
Oh, okay, good.
And so I think the voters got a really good sampling of the type of races that are out there now.
Right.
I'm excited to hear the people that they're running against.
Yes.
I'd like to get them on the show also.
Exactly.
And so any candidates that are watching it, we are going to continue this Meet the Voter portion of Oregon Voters Digest, and we're excited to have you come on board. You can reach out to me at JT at Friends of John Toran.
There you go.
And schedule your time, but we are definitely looking for people next Friday.
Okay, and what about our congressional candidate? I thought that's going to be an interesting piece. We got Salinas, you got her running. There's a number of folks that are running on against her, if you will, in the race aspect of it. That's a good one. And then we got the Earl Blumenauer. Anything? Have we gotten any feedback from Earl and folks like that?
So I ran into Earl at the Martin Luther King breakfast that the Scanner puts on.
Yeah, okay.
And he did see, he was our first candidate that we did a little profile. Remember, we did the intro, and we recognized Earl's career.
Right.
He did mention that it was just a rumor that he got a volleyball scholarship.
Ah! Really? Wow.
It was just a rumor. rumor. He wouldn't confirm or deny, but it was just a rumor that he was got a volleyball school.
We're going to do a little. The reason why I asked about it, especially Earl, because as you know, we got Black History Month going on, and you know, someone had sent me a piece that he did in reference to personalizing Black History Month and some of the issues that existed back when, if you will, for the city. And so I thought that was some interesting. I'm going to share that with you, but we're going to have some discussion on that.
Well, one thing I did learn at the MLK breakfast about his history was he was instrumental in changing Union Avenue's name to Martin Luther King. He was one of the people that led it on the city level, and he was sharing the story, and he didn't realize, like, this is my opinion, but he didn't realize how much pushback he would get.
His district.
Yeah. Well.
Yeah, you got to have a push. That's his job.
Well, no. This was when he was on city council.
Well, still his district.
Right. His city
commissioner, right?
But yeah, he didn't.
Good.
You know,
He's good.
he just
he
didn't. And so, you know, for a lot of times, people in the majority, you know, there is this light on moment. Where they don't even realize how racism actually happens.
Right.
And so when he was, you know, being towards the tip of the spear and leading this effort, he got a lot of that vitriol directed towards him. And, you know, for people that are in the majority, that can be like a light on moment where they realize what minorities experience on, you know, day-to-day or week-to-week basis. And so it was a really endearing to hear him speak about that experience of trying to push something racially charged like that in the 80s. Because when my family's business, Dean's Beauty Salon, is on basically it's on Hancock and MLK,
right,
and Union back in the day,
right.
And if I don't, you of course you remember what Union was like.
Oh yeah,
in the 80s.
Yeah, very much.
That's where all the streetwalkers were.
Very much so. very much so. And you know, and when you make a point about that, and you think about it today, and you think about, in all due respect, that was Oregon's definition of responding to the whole issue of diversity. You got me? And then you ask yourself the question, then all of a sudden there was this big dump of money that was being thrown in this community to do all kinds of things. Talk about housing, talk about jobs, talk about the business and all this, that, and the other. And then I'm saying, what happened to all of that stuff? How much money have we spent? How much money came to Oregon specifically for that purpose?
Right.
I think about PDC, Portland Development Commission, and all of the other affirmative action deal, and like I said, the unit. But my point is that, what have we gotten the results? What did the people get? We're still talking about the same deal.
Well, we got bike lanes in Northeast Portland.
That's right. And, Earl, you got to come on and tell us about it. See, Earl built a bridge for bikes.
Yeah.
You know, but what about housing? I mean, now my point is, I'm just basically saying this man has gotten some excellent background. City commissioner, Multnomah County commissioner, you know, and
state legislature,
legislature. In all due respect, I can still remember I was doing Voters Digest at the time. All I saw was a professional politician. But now, you know, but he's learned. He's gotten involved and he's brought some neat things, if you will, to respond and address those issues, various issues.
And he's good. He found his lane, no pun intended, at Congress.
Yes.
And you know, that's hard to do.
Yeah.
And
he did.
You know, one of the things that we judge our congressional delegation on is their ability to bring federal money home. And he has done that.
Yeah.
He has done that.
But federal money is brought home for what? See,
bike lanes.
And that's my point. Yeah. But it has to be about community. You know,
right.
and then we're defining that. And that's a very important piece. Got my point? And not to say that every state in the union was doing that. Every state in the union had, if you will, their principal city. We got Portland, Oregon aspect of it, and people were looking for results. And then I'm just saying, because he's saying, well, look, I'm out of here. I've paid my dues. I'm going to get on my bike now. I'm going to take it off. I'm going to take it off my coat and this, that, and the other. And I'm going to get out there, but I'm going to still be involved. And so we're going to take advantage of that. And Earl, listen where I'm coming from. We need you.
I heard he's been really busy on his TikTok account.
Yeah. Okay. Yes, I noticed that. I noticed that.
I heard that you just downloaded TikTok.
Yes, exactly. Well,
have you made your first video yet?
Well, no, not yet.
Okay.
I've been doing it so long.
Yeah. Well, have you selected your name for TikTok yet?
Oh no, right now it's Voters Digest. I mean, to me, that's a principal piece. I mean, I'm not trying to do a personal thing. It's very important that we stick with the community. Community needs to. That's our focus in many ways. But I do have something that's going to be a major surprise.
Well, I'm very excited to see how you develop your TikTok game.
I got something that wow.
I think you will be wow.
Oh, gee, but I don't want everybody to change their platform.
Right.
I want to hear what they've got because as far as I'm concerned, a person who files to run for office is very important. And to get folks to do that, it's not an easy task. And so the idea is you give them the opportunity, and hopefully as they come and they share, I just want to make sure that they've got that lane that talks to community issues, and community solutions.
And you do build those bridges in the community. And so I guess you recently met one of your neighbors that's running for Portland City Council.
Yes, very much so.
And he represents a voice for Hayden Island, I believe.
Yeah, well, it's in this key area too. And they're doing some very responsive kinds of deals. And he happens to come from that particular community. And he's got something to say, you know what I mean? And I want to make sure we share it.
Well, I'm very excited to learn from him. I'll bring Marc over and let you
Sounds good.
start with your interview, man.
And thanks again.
Yeah.
Keep calling those folks.
I will.
And give me that list.
Guys, answer my phone calls.
Okay. Are you going to be sticking around for the close?
I don't think so.
Okay, good. I'll
get out of here.
Yeah, take care.
We'll grab a mimosa.
We'll get Marc over here. This is community television, folks. Okay, Marc, come on over. We're going to have a seat here. And we're going to interview this guy, and right up front with it, he's not a newcomer. He's been around. Marc and I go back a ways. And in fact, he used to be here at community television and the like. And he's been all. In fact, he's gone to the major swamp area up in D.C. He knows that area too a little bit. So we're gonna kind of prod a little bit of that and get some stuff that while he was there and share that, because I think that's very important. Because too often we tend to think that these folks that go to D.C. are not representative, if you will, of our issues. And they've got to get more involved. And so I like the idea that Marc, he's probably a one and only that's running in our area right now that's somewhat familiar, because he's run for office too before. In fact, he's run for Congress at one point in time. In fact, I think it was back during that time I ran.
Well, it was 2018.
I ran during that particular time too. But my point is that he's been down to D.C., so he's seen that scene, and he can share some thoughts with us about that. But so he's going to be a good example. And then plus the fact, like I said, he at this point in his life, he's saying, "Hey, look, I want to give back. I think I can be a part of this solution-oriented kind of a program." So that's valuable, and he's sharing it. He's sharing with those individuals that are also running for city council. As you know, we got a new form of government now, and from the standpoint of saying we got 3 commissioners per district. So realistically, we got 4 cities.
Yes, that's right.
4 cities, yep. And the person is not alone. You see what I'm saying? So they're going to have to organize that among themselves, such that they're going to have to kind of develop, if you will, a specific lane of issues for the 3.
Yep.
And then they're going to work with, and they're going to basically represent us, the community, and with the rest of those entities. And then hopefully we can do, because I think that's the best way of targeting our problems right now, because we've separated them in quarters. And that would be a good deal. And so I chatted with Marc a little ahead of time, and he understands that. And so welcome aboard, buddy.
Thank you very much.
Okay, Marc. Well, okay, fine. Well, look, let's just get you right in on the deal here.
Absolutely.
Give him a little background about who Marc is, so to speak, and then we'll get into it. Okay?
Sure. Yeah, it's, when we get to be a little older, we've had a lot of
younger older. Now remember, we don't use that word.
Well, I started out in politics actually in college.
Okay.
There was this thing called Vietnam War going on, and most of my family are veterans. My father was a World War II veteran. My grandfather was a World War I veteran. My brother was a naval officer in Vietnam. And there was a lot of dissatisfaction with what was going on. But it got a lot of our generation, involved in politics. And it's just from there, I spent the next 30 years or so, raising a family and doing that kind of a deal with raising kids and that. And finally, I moved to Portland in 2011, and I was one of the people that went to Bernie Sanders' big event at the Moda Center.
Okay.
I think that's kind of like a seminal event for a lot of the folks here in Portland.
Okay.
And I got sort of re-inspired again to think about getting more involved in community action and things like that. And shortly after that, I joined the Progressive Party and ran against Earl Blumenauer in 2018 as an independent. At that time, the Independent Party was actually a major party. I don't know if people remember that or not. So I had to run a primary, and then I was endorsed by the Progressive Party, the Green Party, the Progressive Party. And I've enjoyed listening to you two talking a little bit about his history, because one of the things you said made a lot of sense to me, is that, what we should expect more from politicians just in bringing money into the district. That's an important thing.
Right.
But so my position was, he was not a strong advocate for the kinds of things that I thought were most important. Fair trade deals, union organizations, although he got a lot of support from unions. Anyway, so my process was kind of learning that the role of politics here in the Portland area, especially since I was pretty new to Portland. I needed to understand. I love the city. I moved here deliberately for the city. Moved here from the East Coast. And since that time, I've stayed involved with the Progressive Party on a number of issues, particularly things like state bank, campaign finance reform. And then when the city council, I was also one of the citizen observers of the Charter Commission process. I had actually applied to be on the Charter Commission, but wasn't selected. But I was able to sit in on all the meetings over the years or two and realized where they were going. And I agreed completely that their perspective was, we really need to change the way in which our officials are elected for the city. Prior to that, in the years prior, most of the city councilors were all pretty much from the same kind of background.
Okay, no problem.
I don't want to mess up the microphone.
Right. No problem.
Thanks.
Okay, go on.
So, the idea was to bring a lot of diversity into the city council and to make it available to a much wider group of individuals who normally didn't have the resources. So you have a small donor program now. And the fact that we are going to have 3 from each district, as you said, is kind of like 3 separate cities. But even within the districts,
4.
Even within the districts, you have the 3 counselors who hopefully will represent the issues in the particular neighborhoods. There are 31 neighborhoods in District 2 where I'm running, all the way from Hayden Island down, if you follow around through St. John's and all the way around the Willamette River, up to the Lloyd Center area, out to Cully neighborhood, and all those neighborhoods in between, including the neighborhood that has the largest concentration of black citizens in the King neighborhood. So it's a very diverse neighborhood. We also have probably maybe one of the wealthiest neighborhoods in the city as well. So, and you've got the University of Portland. So even within a district, it's difficult to address all of the concerns that everybody has.
Well, that's the beauty of three commissioners.
Yep.
They're trying to get some justification for it, because ordinarily I would say, hey, we were a one person, and now it was always personalized. That person would represent their particular area.
Right.
Got me?
But I think what's also critical is that the 12 commissioners also have to work together to set policy for the city.
Right.
And if we don't have a consensus of at least a majority of those 12 in agreement on what the process should be for this city, there's going to be a lot of infighting potentially even within the commissioners themselves. And now, of course, we're going to have a brand new mayor, and the mayor is going to appoint the city manager, and then the city manager is going to appoint the assistant city managers who are going to run the bureaus. So the city council itself is merely more just a body to try to push the mayor and the city councilors, the city managers, to actually get done what the citizens want to be done. But we don't have authority to do any of those things. All we can do is approve the budget from the mayor, and if we don't like the way the budget is, we can, hopefully there'll be a mayor that most of us can feel comfortable working with.
Well, you got to vote, though. My point is that it's about community.
Absolutely.
And the community, as the old saying goes, and you understand it real well, it is a government of the people, by the people and for the people.
Yeah, and there's no question that the makeup of the city council is going to be very different than where we have been in the past.
Yeah, but my point is that it's not the mayors that's going to be making that decision, or even the bureau chief. It's the people who represent the community people, which are the elected folks, right? That's going to be communicating with the people, so that they can develop, if you will.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. That is the influence we will have as a city councilor, is access to the people in a way that the other city councilors weren't really as responsible to.
Right.
And so let's just put this, it's going to be a very interesting experience. We've never had the city in this setup before. So everybody's going to be learning in the process. The first year clearly will be challenging, figuring out how to all work together. But I'm excited about the prospect, because I do live, as I think you guys mentioned it earlier, I live up on Hayden Island. And right there, one of the big issues we have is the I-5 construction bridge, the new bridge. And so it's, but we also, like every other neighborhood, we have the same problems with retail crime. We have the same problem with, the cost of housing. We lost, in the last 4 or 5 years, almost all of our restaurants are gone. We lost the only supermarket we had. Safeway left a couple of years ago. The only bank left. And in most cases, they've all said the same thing. They can't, the employees don't feel safe there. There isn't enough police response to be able to effectively police. You and I talked with some other folks about, we're doing some really good things on the island on our own, because you really can't, the resources aren't there for to enforce the kinds of things you need to do. My son, who also lives on the island, had 2 motorcycles stolen. I've had my catalytic converter stolen. I mean, and yet none of those were ever investigated. It was all just put in an insurance claim and just accept the reality that, well, we don't want to accept that reality. And I think every neighborhood feels the same way, and not just in my district, but we've got to get control of what we can, which I think retail crime is certainly one of those things that as a city we all can get together on and work on. Housing is always an issue, and we have to see what we can do to make it easier, not just easier to build more housing, but find ways to finance housing differently than it has been in the past. So it's not just, I don't mean to be so critical of developers, but all the money shouldn't just go to developers. Small businesses should be involved in building home. People who have a 1/4 acre lot and they'd like to put another building on it, they shouldn't have to wait 2.5 years for permitting to put up another, 2 or 3 unit house on their property. So there's a lot of things that we can do to make the process of more housing come quicker. Everything we hear about affordable housing, affordable for who? And of course, everybody then on the same side talks about houselessness. Well, most of the people who are homeless can't afford any of these new buildings. So we have to take a different approach to housing those who can't get into even a subsidized housing, don't have the money for that. And then the 2 big issues for me, and just shut me up, Bruce, whenever you want me to.
No, keep going. I'm looking at time. I can't look at my time situation.
Okay. But I think one of the big issues we are also dealing with is mental health services. So much of the problems I think that bother people in the city in terms of coming downtown or even walking in their own neighborhoods is the person who's severely mentally ill who's out walking the street. And there's no facilities and resources to really help those people who are in the most need. And as you know, on a personal level, a lot of those people are also veterans, disabled veterans who are living out on the street. We shouldn't allow that to happen.
Keep talking. I'm just going to turn to the table.
Oh, no problem.
Okay, keep going. Keep going.
So what we have is, the issues are pretty much the same in every neighborhood, but the way we approach those as a city really should be based on the individual needs in particular neighborhoods. But sharing the resources, because another thing that I'm personally concerned with is that it's not just about bringing people back into downtown. More people live outside of downtown than live downtown. So why should the majority of these resources go? I think downtown is going to go through a renaissance. It's going to be a different city than it was 10, 15 years ago. I think the arts and music, and we should make clearly downtown needs to be a safe place to go. We have one of the greatest music cities in the country, and we can do things to people come back into the city. But I don't think we're going to get people to want to come back to work in the city as much as they are. So there's a lot of empty office buildings that can be reconfigured into different kinds of housing or different utilization kinds of things. And so, let's put it this way. There's no end to the kinds of things that we can do. But like I said, I think the critical pieces are the 12 of us commissioners, and I hope to be one of them, to come together with a common set of goals and plans. And one of the things I like to talk about is we don't need any more planning. We just need to be getting stuff done. We know what the problems are, and there are really good solutions out there. We just have to get the resources committed and be transparent about where is the current money going. Like we have this, and I know everybody talks about there's a $5 billion kicker, right?
Right, that's right.
We can't use that. It's going to individuals, and the majority of it is going to individuals who have the highest incomes, right? Because they're the ones who pay the most taxes. So they're the ones. So the people who really need the money aren't having access to that $5 billion. So somebody who makes $500,000 a year is going to get this huge kicker. And what are they going to do? They're going to take another trip to Italy. They're going to take a cruise ship. It's like that's not, that money is there for us. It came out of our taxes. Yes, you made more money, you paid more taxes, but still that money should come back to help the city. And whether people say, oh well, you got a problem, you got to figure out it's a state law and all those kind of things. Well, we can change those laws to make those things happen. So even there was a $650 million bond issue, housing bond issue that Metro had access to. Not a penny of that ever took a person off the street. Yes, it's building units that are more affordable, and that's a good thing. We need to keep building more units. There is definitely a housing shortage. We need to keep building, but I think it's a question of how are our resources being utilized? Do we know where they're going, and can we affect how that happens? So, there's like we can keep talking forever about all the problems, but for every one of those, the problems we look at, now this whole thing with recriminalizing the use of drugs on the street. If you take somebody who just spent $1 to buy some fentanyl and you arrest him and put him in jail for 30 days, that will not accomplish anything. But it doesn't mean on the other side that we just say, all right, just use drugs and it's fine. There are solutions in that problem as well. But putting the occasional drug user in jail isn't the solution either. Every one of those people who are buying those fentanyl is buying from somebody else on the street. And so what about the person who's providing it? Let's go after the people who are distributing. We can find them very easily. Those are the people who should be taken off the street. And of course, on the national level and even on an international level, we know where the fentanyl is coming from. And so I support the government's activities and the state's activities to try to stop the flow of the drugs. But I think there's, you take each of those situations and you focus on those. For me, one of my big focuses is on, I may be, I won't use the word older, I may be the, I will say it, I may be the oldest person running for city council right now. And there is this, I forgot which newspaper put out the article about the senior tsunami that's coming. If you look at statistics, the fastest growing population of homeless are elderly women. We have this population of baby boomers, who many of the women are widowed or they're divorced, who never had, the big careers, so their Social Security numbers are big. They were housewives or they were, spent less than highly paid positions. And when they're in their 70s, their income is barely livable for many of them. And so what are they doing? They're moving out of the city, or they're moving into their cars in some cases, or they're becoming homeless. And so for me, that's a big issue for me, is this the elder population, to support them. I believe the mental health issue is something I have some personal, and I don't need to get into it now, but I have a lot of years that I spent dealing with a family member who had a lifetime of mental illness.
Okay.
And how difficult it is to really provide the kinds of, your viewers may know that Oregon is listed as the second worst state in the country for mental health services, only behind Mississippi. That shouldn't be right. We can do those kinds of things. So I think there's each of us, you mentioned the word when you were talking before about, you find your lane. And I think that's, for me, those are really the two biggest issues is, how do we really provide for those elder folks who, and that also includes the disabled. The disabled veterans are those people on physical or mental health disabilities who live on a fixed income. And with inflation and rising rent costs and everything else, how are those people going to survive? Mm-hmm. And then, the issue of mental health is a whole nother area where I would really dedicate a lot of my time and energy towards, helping to provide the resources for that.
Well, let me ask a few questions.
Sure. Sorry to keep rolling.
No, that's good. I wanted to come and give you an opportunity to just share with the viewing audience a little bit about your background and whatever. But maybe before we get to those three, I'm just going to go back and tap some of those areas that,
sure.
Maybe one or two of those areas. Now, you spent a little time in D.C., right, in that area?
Yeah.
Okay, good. And how was that? What were you doing that?
My brother is a Vietnam veteran, disabled Vietnam veteran.
Okay.
And although he's also a clinical psychologist, during the, right around 2001, mm-hmm. I got together with some folks and we started a service disabled veteran-owned small business, which my brother was the service disabled veteran, and I became president of that. And we were working with the Department of Veterans Affairs in particular.
In D.C.?
In D.C., yeah. To what we were focused on was actually a technology solution that we were trying to sell to the VA. And, right now, everybody would kind of be used to it, but when you go into a hospital and you got a wristband,
right,
they will check the wristband, the barcode, to make sure that your medication matches what the doctor had prescribed.
Okay.
At the time, approximately 80,000 people a year were dying in the hospitals because of improper medication.
Oh, okay.
So we had actually had a friend in a company that I'd worked for who had developed an application for the Washington D.C. Medical Center as the first trial of that wireless medical administration.
Okay.
And so we had built a model for that, and we went around to different organizations. But because we were a small business, it was difficult to work with the larger VA organization. But I was able to. I met Max Cleland. I think you may have known Max.
Yeah, secretary, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was secretary of the VA under Carter.
Right.
He was a Vietnam veteran who lost both of his legs and one arm.
Remember that guy?
Yep, wonderful
Heck of
man.
a speaker too.
Yeah, he was a great fellow. He guided me through the initially access into the VA. Mm-hmm. Secretary Principi was the secretary, who was also a naval veteran at the time. And because my brother was a naval officer as well, that sort of helped getting into the system. Mm-hmm. And we spent several years doing a number of different kinds of projects, but as it came about, it's all about lobbyists and money, and we eventually, after about 3 years there, finally, I won't say I gave up the battle, but by that time the technology had advanced and there were big companies who were pouring millions of dollars into the process, and we were a small company, so we really couldn't compete, and I understood that, but I learned a lot about how things get done in Washington. I met several lobbyists, and I worked with a group of Alaskan Native corporations and Native American corporations. It's one of the things I think is very interesting is I also learned about the whole process of, there are minority-owned businesses, there are women-owned businesses, there are veteran-owned businesses, and through the Small Business Administration, there's access to government contracts for those types of organizations. You just have to know how to get into the system and how to get through that mess. So that's one thing I would hopefully be able to help too, is if there are, particularly like I said in District 2, the King neighborhood, there are a lot of small businesses. Your co-host, who is also a small business owner, he understands getting the resources and the funding to get a small business going is challenging. And I think that's something that the city should be more focused on helping. So there's, I think the life experience that we have, most of my career was actually spent in leadership development in corporations. Yes, I worked in the corporate universe for, I started out as a high school vocational teacher, though, and it's another piece that I'm very, very, if I said...
What vocation were you teaching?
back in the day, it was drafting.
Drafting?
Yeah, I was a draftsman. You know, pencils. Remember pencils?
Okay. Oh yeah.
And T-squares.
I did a stint doing vocational education when I was going to school.
That's right.
In the drafting piece.
Yeah.
And I know I draw a line.
Yeah, and then that became essentially a computer job. You know, because computer-aided design, computer-aided manufacturing.
Computer-aided design, right? CAD tech.
But in the high school I taught in, students would spend 4 hours a day for 3 years learning a trade. And you'd have 18-year-olds coming out as apprentice electricians and chefs and graphic artists and auto mechanics. And, you know, they didn't have to go, you know, $150,000 into debt for student loans to then get a bachelor degree so they could work at Starbucks. You know, I know as you, I live on the water. I live on a boat, and I had a little issue with one of my diesels on the boat, and my diesel mechanic gets $180 an hour. I never made $180 an hour.
And that's today.
That's right. So
if not more.
You know, you don't have this, and the best way to do that is through not only the vocational high schools, which we don't have many left, but through the trade unions. And
trades,
even in my when I taught in the vocational high school, every one of the teachers were tradespeople. They were journeymen. So you were learning from
their careers,
from the folks. So I think pushing and supporting the unions, the trade unions, and the high schools and the community colleges. I think PCC should be supported to build more programs that aren't just you know, English literature. It's not. I'm not saying liberal arts is a bad thing, but not everybody wants to go down that road. You know, so.
Well, you know, you make a good point, because I was there during the time when PCC got together, if you will, and the whole purpose of the community college, it started right here in the Northeast corridor for the federal dollars. That's where it started for the state of Oregon, and the whole idea was to generate jobs, to give the owners, if you will, the employers, the opportunity to be able to train their potential workers. You got me? The concept was there, but once the monies got there, the entities that actually put that piece together may have come from another source, but there was no follow-through of the aspect of it. And the reason why I'm bringing that point up is that you remember now, before that happened, and you think our society, in many ways, most of the kids within moderate incomes and low income, so as they're going to school, their parents weren't doctors and lawyers and other major career type folks, and so they're left alone. So in most cases, they can't utilize, if you will, their studies to relate to a career. You got me? Now, we did have career day during that time, you got me, which was good, because that was the only thing we had that could reference that. And so now today, we at least have some idea. That's why I was interested in your background also too. We have some idea. Maybe we go back to that ending, because now we've got the community colleges. But again, still we've got a problem. We got to pick up what we left behind, of those kids that basically were given these monies now to go back to school, but a lot of times there's no failures. You almost have to have some direction for those kids to help them out.
I think that you're right. The business community should also be more heavily engaged.
And it started out that way, but someone didn't know how to continue the process. You know what I mean?
Because there are a lot of open jobs here in Portland. I mean, anybody who really wants to work here in Portland, there's no problem finding work. The problem is, of course, can you find a living wage, and can you find a place that you can afford, that you can live in? That's why I think the kinds of education, whether it's, you know, it doesn't have to be like carpenters and plumbers and things, but, you know, data processing people. You know, you come out of a community college, you should be able to come out in 2 years to be able to really get out in the work world and make a decent wage, you know. So I think there's a lot of things.
But we need help there, though, just to make sure that happens. And so again, that's one of the reasons why I was suggesting and thinking that, and it's going to be expensive, this city council reform aspect of it. But if we really spend the time to make sure, and that's what we're doing here on the show, you got me, and making sure that we get the kinds of folks who have the background to be able to bring their experience and let that be their lane, if you will, to communicate to the voting public.
I like your idea about, you know, how, because some people asked me, you know, what do you bring to the table?
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
What I bring is, a lot of life experience, but
Yes.
a lot of work experience.
Yes.
I met one young person who's running, and I said, what do you think qualifies you to be on the city council?
Exactly.
He says, well, I live in Portland.
Yeah,
I said, well,
yeah,
that's
yeah,
good.
yeah,
We all live in Portland.
yeah.
But beyond that, and I care. Okay, well, you care, but you shouldn't have to learn on the job there. There's enough of us who are, I think, of the people who are running, who really do have the kinds of life experiences that will make the council work effectively. And I just keep coming back to it, but trying to get a group of us who are of common ideas about how are we going to run the city in a way that will satisfy what needs to be done, rather than just continue to pour money into developers and tax breaks and tax incentives for businesses. And I'm not anti-business at all. I think but I do think they're not paying enough in taxes. We're giving too many tax breaks to our. And then I look at, like, for instance, Nike. I don't know how much money Nike has, but they couldn't keep their store open on MLK. Why do we lose that business here?
But then, like I said, with the structure we have, you can ask the question why before it gets that way. You get my point?
Yep.
And maybe the expansion might be to find a potential investor that would be willing to continue the process, because naturally an investor would be one that would be looking for some sort of return on their monies, and so it could have stayed there and gone to the next level.
Yeah.
But then, like I said, with this new process that we're looking at having, with three people sitting in that particular district responsible for that piece, somebody asked a question.
Yep.
And if in fact if it needs to be grown in one area here or this, that, and the other from a government standpoint, then you would know what the results would be. But on the other hand, we wouldn't lose the business. I saw that the other day with reference to, I think there was one entity that was moving that particular company into Clackamas County. It was a pretty large employer aspect of it.
Yep, we were down to Lake Oswego.
Lake Oswego. And then the first thing that I thought about, wait a minute. We got the leaders who are basically representing us, and we're paying for that piece. They're supposed to be knowledgeable enough to be able to say, okay, fine, why do you want to move? What is the problem? They did cite some areas with reference to crime, but that's normally the normal deal. But someone needs to have been sitting at the table with that entity, got my point, and solve that particular problem and keep that big, because that affects so many jobs, if you will.
I think they said there were 400 employees.
Yeah, you see, and
it's hard to replace.
But now with this new form of government, I'm trying to kind of like justify in many ways to the viewing public, because a lot of times we're not committed to what we're doing, like we're doing, having those discussions sitting around the table, the deal. But now we're going to have that piece.
Let's hope so.
And then at the same time, make sure that if you got the 3 seats there, it's not just one individual now, right? Got me?
Yep.
And like you had mentioned, this young person who just said, well, look, I live in Portland. Well, hey, that's the application process, and anybody can sign up aspect of it. But you're right about that. But that question should be asked on the application process. See, so the person is not just wasting that time for that slot, right? Got me? But we need young people involved in the process.
Absolutely.
Because those are the futures. But let's say if you got an idea, but we have one there, and like you said, you got the women that are basically just they're out of the market, they're hurting, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Well, we just that's a lot of talent there. Got my point? So we need to sit down and figure out how can we get them back into the table and share that with that young person. So maybe we might have a senior sitting at the table.
I agree with you completely. I think it's, it's the same way somebody, I've been working with some folks who are trying to work on this platform idea.
Right, okay.
And they were talking about, gang violence. They were worried about gang violence. And I said, well, the 4 of us sitting here, none of us have any knowledge of really what there are. People though who have lived in the gangs, who have come through that process. We have to go to those people who know and understand it and live those situations, help guide us in terms of how do we deal with those
things. They should
things.
be at the table.
I hate to say it, it's not just for white guys talking about gang violence. I have no right to talk about that. I grew up in an all white neighborhood, growing up.
But we all come from
come from different places.
Yeah,
right.
in all due respect,
right.
we at the same time, if you have to look at it that way, we've all belonged to gangs.
Different
But
gang,
in some cases they're called associations
or tribes.
Yeah, a lot of times they'll call them associations.
Yeah, there we go. Yep.
This group or this group or this group,
Yep.
and then we've sort of like isolated this other group and put them in a kind of a negative volume aspect of it, and we put public monies on it, and we never solved the problem. You got to get down and just ask, what is the problem?
And you just said it, we also, where is the money going?
That's right. That's what you're paying.
Every time you talk about solving a problem, you keep hearing back, there's no resources, there isn't enough money. It's like, God, we have a lot of money spent.
And we got a problem here in Oregon, in IE Portland, because this is not the most productive place for a person to live.
Well, I just noticed today.
It's very costly.
I think I forgot who put it out. Maybe it was in the Mercury, but that we got a new seat in Congress. Oregon did, because our population was growing.
Yeah.
Well, our population is now shrinking.
Mm-hmm.
Portland is the number one city in the state that's losing the most residents.
Mm-hmm.
And you know who's leaving? It's interesting. It's the wealthy people who are leaving. People. They said the average of the income for the folks who were leaving is $112,000 a year income.
Mm-hmm.
Those are people who are leaving.
Mm-hmm.
So we're really, as a city, we're actually on a decline now.
Mm-hmm.
It's still a wonderful place, and I don't want to say bad things, because I love Portland.
Oh yeah.
And
yeah.
it is a wonderful place, and the neighborhoods are fabulous. But our job in the city government is to help those neighborhoods figure out how to address the problems to keep the neighborhoods safe.
Well, that's what you're running
place
for.
to
You're
live.
running one of the largest districts in the city as a city council person, and a lot of those issues are sitting in this district.
Yep,
and you're going to see a lot of folks running. In some cases, it's a monetary type thing, and it's not about. But we all have to eat. You remember that.
That's right.
And regardless of how low you're on the pole.
I guess a good thing for me is I'm retired, so.
But still,
I didn't plan to go back to work. So for me, it's not about the income.
I know, but my point. But yeah, right. But you bring other things on the table, and
because I know a lot of people you said who are. I know there's a lot of people running because it's a high paying job.
Right.
That your only qualification is getting elected, and I think the qualification should be a little more than that.
But if they bring something to the table
Yes.
that responds to the issues,
Yep.
that's nonpartisan.
Yep.
It's not Democrat. It's
That's
not
right.
Republican.
That's
It's
a nice
not.
thing. We're not running as Democrats or
These are
Republicans.
these issues. Everybody identify,
Yep.
like the whole issue of housing, like the issue of the mental illness, like the drugs, like guns. So my point is that we got some major issues sitting on the table that is nonpartisan.
Yep.
So the leadership that's basically running for office, if you will, should know that and should look at their resume, their experience. Let's put it that way. And if they can identify with that from the standpoint of a solution, in most cases, look at yourself in the mirror and say, hey, look here. Oh, I can identify with that because I've got the track record. I've been involved in that process. And then those are the kinds of folks we're in need, if you will, sitting at that table. So that's kind of, now we got about another 10 minutes, but is there anything specifically, you sort of mentioned it, but now let's get down, is there anything you can say that towards, what is your lane, if you will?
Yeah, I think like I said,
one or two, let's say, what would be the top issue that you think you might want to address?
I think you have to put at the top of the list is the mental health issues. Yes, the
mental health.
It takes, and I will mention, the person that I helped get on mental health disability took 3.5 years to get through the process here. You can walk up to somebody on the street right now and you know this person is totally incapable of surviving on their own.
Okay.
The only reason they're alive is because our nonprofits and our faith-based organizations are feeding them and clothing them, and some people have been giving them either a tent or a tarp. They're just living in an existence, but yet that person could indeed qualify for the kinds of services, but they can't do that on their own. They don't have the slightest idea how to work through that system.
Okay.
So one of the things would be to really put in a safety net, basically, that says, and on my website I do talk about an 8-point safety net for handling the mental health crisis. It is a very doable plan to sort of, you got to get case managers out into the field. You've got to get to these people who need the help and get them into, you can't just say to someone who is standing on the street basically half naked and screaming at the world that it's okay for you to live like this.
Okay.
We have a responsibility as citizens and as a government to to get those people the kind of help and care that they need.
Okay.
Whether they want, I hate to say it, whether they want it or not.
Okay.
They're a danger not only to themselves, but they're a danger to other people.
Okay.
They affect the city and the quality of life in a way that's detrimental to everybody. So that's the tip of the pyramid. Then the next level of people are folks who are also limited by their disabilities, both physically or mentally. They're not a danger to themselves, so they don't get incarcerated, okay? But they're either drug addicted, or they're alcohol addicted, or they're severe mental health or severe disabilities. We need to focus on helping those people. And another whole population are, if you will, I don't know how to exactly describe it in a way that people won't feel offended, but women who have been abused, who have to leave their homes with their children, who are living in their cars. They're probably working at part-time jobs while the kids are in school. That's a different population. They're not drug addicts. They're not mentally ill. They're just struggling to survive. That's a different population. We should be doing more to support that group. The people who are doing the good things right now, in my mind, are mostly, like I said, the faith-based groups, the nonprofits. Not all the nonprofits. There are hundreds of nonprofits who are getting a lot of money who aren't actually accomplishing much. So we have to be also looking objectively as to where are those monies going.
So an evaluation of that.
But really support the ones that really are doing the really good things that need to be done. And then you got the population of, before I ever moved here, maybe people have heard this before, but Portland was known as the city where young people come to retire, right? Yeah, it's easy to live here on the street. And I'm not worried about the 21-year-old with his guitar sitting on the corner trying to get spare change. That's going to continue to happen, right? And that's not the problem. It's the disabled, it's the mentally ill, it's the battered women who need help, and it's the severely mentally ill. And I think we can take each of those groups and provide solutions to just say, like even in my district, well, you know this, on 33rd Street, they just finally got rid of a whole pile of abandoned, basically RVs. But if you talk to those people, and I've been there and I've talked to them, and this is their home. We have now not that it's a safe situation, it's a horrible situation that we had there, but for many of them, that's their home. That's where they lived. Everything they owned in the world was there, and we took it away. And what did we do? We offered them some temporary housing. Some of them, many of them wouldn't take it because maybe they have a drug problem, so they can't get into some of the temporary housing, or their mental illness won't allow them to be they'll call it caged, but we have the opportunity, if we focus on, like I said, each of the kind of issues and put a plan together that'll help those folks, and we can find the money. I hate to hear people saying that all the time, there's no resource. There are lots of resources. We just have to find a better way to utilize those resources. And I think what most of the people who are going to be voting for city councilors, they just want to see progress. You're not going to solve these problems overnight. We know that.
But at least have some sort of a plan.
Yeah, you have a plan, and you have measurable milestones in terms of what do we expect to accomplish in year one and year two, and be held accountable. As a city councilor, if I say I'm going to do something and I don't get it done, get rid of me. Get somebody else who can do that. Hold our people accountable, and be transparent about where our money is going.
Well, let me give you a thought on that real quick. I'm gonna throw a piece out on the table. Aspect of it. I saw an ad on my Facebook piece. And they were interviewing a homeless person and talking to, they weren't from here, and they'd moved here. And they were responding to the services that were available. This person made it a person from sort of like a billboard that's been sitting right in front of this state. He said this is the easiest place in the world to get all the needs that you need from services. All the needs.
That's right.
You pay nothing. It's as if to say, it's more of a like the whole issue with drugs and the gang thing, whatever. We had this billboard. In all due respect, it was from the mayor's office. They were blaming him from the standpoint of putting a billboard out there saying, "Come to Portland, Oregon, and you can shoot up anytime you want to,
That's right.
and you can do this and this, that, and that." Well, this guy was kind of like referencing the same deal from the standpoint, you can come here and do whatever you want, and then you said, so that's where a lot of the money is being thrown in the pot, but then not making the person responsible from the standpoint of getting out the situation he was. Got me? And so my thought was, but then when you drive down the streets and you see all of the garbage being thrown by this same person, by the same person, but that's not part of the listings of, okay, fine, when you get through eating and whatever, you put the trash in the trash can, okay, got me? And so, and then the graffiti piece, you got all the folks advertising, hey, if you want to do graffiti, go to Portland, Oregon. I'll go to the state of Oregon. I'm using Portland.
No, you're right. It is a very good place to live if you're homeless.
That's right.
And you really don't have to worry too much. We do get some cold weather, and we did,
but they're still getting taken care of. But they're still getting taken care of.
That's
you know what I'm saying?
Yep.
And we're reinforcing that. We're basically asking more monies, i.e., taxes, from the paying public, if you will.
Yep.
You got me? And then you got other issues that goes along with that to counter the crime.
Yep.
So give them anything they want, so to speak. And that's not what we want to do here in this city. We want to get back to the Rose City, if you will, to a certain degree.
Yep.
So again, that's why I'm saying that's why we're doing the interviewing. That's why we need the kinds of leadership.
I got one more thing to say, because I know
Real
your
quick,
time is running out.
Yeah,
I forgot to mention to folks, I'm also a Rose Festival clown.
Okay.
And the Rose Festival, I just think, I look at what's really good about this city too. There are some, we have some great stuff like that goes on in this city. I don't think we should, get down to the point that, the city is dead, people should leave, we're never going to go downtown again. I don't think that's the answer. I think the answer is, this is a wonderful city to live in. It's a great place to be. We just have to focus on the problems, get our city government focused and aligned together.
But what are you going to do with the clown thing? I mean, it looked like that was are we going to go through that piece?
Well,
share that? That's part of your deal?
I just wanted to mention it.
But what?
Because I enjoy this city, and I enjoy, we do city fair, we do all the big parades, and before the pandemic, when I was in the Grand Floral Parade, there were 400,000 people showed up along the parade route. 400,000 people, and none of them were doing drugs, and none of them were shooting anybody, and none of them was homeless. These were just our residents, and they're, most of the people here, the vast majority of people in Portland are great folks who love living in the city. They just want to see their city government help them solve the problems.
But you do understand, I hear that.
Yep.
But we're looking for leadership that can solve these problems.
Absolutely.
So we can enjoy those things that we talked about in the past aspect of it. So hopefully we are clear on that.
Yeah, I think, absolutely.
I know that's where you are. I know where you are.
We can return the city to the kind of place that what drove me to move here. I had heard a lot of great things about Portland over the years. I come here for work over the years before I moved here, and I said, if I ever got a chance to move here, I'm coming. I came from Boston, and miserable traffic and huge taxes and awful weather.
And you've seen a lot.
And I said, but this place is heaven. But we have, not that we don't have problems.
Yeah, we got the problems.
Right,
and we're looking for the leadership to solve those problems.
Well, I'm hoping to be part of that.
Okay, good. I like that. we got about another minute. Just about another minute. Any other lasting things you want to share? First off, you got a website, I'm sure, right?
Yes.
What is that website?
Yeah, it's Marc Koller for Portland.com. I don't know if I think our man here. Oh, he's got it up there.
Okay, good. There it is right there. You got Marc Koller. Is there a phone number you want to share?
Everything is on the website.
On the website.
It's also a place where one thing I'm really hoping to find is people who want to volunteer, who want to help in my campaign.
And you say that on your website.
People can also donate on the website. There's just a simple little click to donate.
But you say that on your website.
Yeah.
Okay, good. So go to the website.
Yeah. The program that the city put together, the small donor program, requires they will match the first $20 of any contribution.
Yeah, we've already done that piece.
Oh, have you? It's a good program.
But you still have some of those deals.
Yeah,
okay,
and that donation capability is on the website.
Okay, good. Well, look, we want to thank you very much, Marc. We wish you the luck.
Bruce, I always enjoy being with you.
Okay, hey, we'll have you come back. Okay,
absolutely.
If you're around, just give us a call.
Super.
If we got an opening, you can come back and chat a little bit more.
Just tell me when.
Okay. All right, folks. I guess this is where we are at this point in time. Marc, we gave him more time because, in all due respect, some of the folks were a little absent. But anyway, we're here. We'll be here next week, and do join us. Take care, and tell your friends who we are.
Thanks, Bruce.
Okay. All right. Did you like it?
Yeah. It's wonderful.
Good. Good. Now.